Some days you just can't win. They were on the Sea of Tiberias, and oftentimes the storms would, rise up. And this sea that they were on was not as big as Lake Superior, but it was 8 miles across and 12 miles long. And so you had this, think of 8 miles out and across as a kind of a large lake. And Jesus grew up very near to this lake. And here we go, we're back online. And we remember that as we've been talking about Jesus and following him in these past many weeks, we're getting oriented to him, who he was. And I've been talking about how important it is to know him in his first century world. We've seen him ride into Jerusalem on a donkey at Passover time. And then we went back and read about the boy Jesus in Nazareth, the boy Jesus in love with the Jewish festivals, in love with the Passover. His God, he loves his God, he loves the Jewish scriptures. We've seen him amaze wise scholars at the age of 12. And then come back and infuriate his own townspeople in Nazareth. They're so angry at him because he was reading so deeply into these scriptures that he came to give his kind of public announcement of that campaign he was about to run. And here's the platform he launched his campaign on. I'm going to heal the world by healing the oppressors as well as the oppressed. And the people in Nazareth being the oppressed of that relationship were so angry that Jesus would even think and imagine like that. They were remembering the horrors of what the Greek and the Roman world did to their people. And Jesus says, I'm going to heal them too. And the people were infuriated by that. We've seen him riding into Israel as the Israel's king, coming to set up a new kingdom, and in a way that disturbed them and disturbs us. And I've made the claim so far that if we're really going to understand Jesus, if we're really going to take in the real guy who lived way back when, that we're going to be a bit disturbed. He was disturbing then and disturbs us now. And the disturbing part of Jesus is that he comes as king, and not just a king to come and be like a religious leader, but someone who says to us, all of the dreams that you have, all of the hopes, all the things that you're investing your life in, I'm asking you to put them in a suitcase, close them up, set them aside, take my dreams for you, my dreams for the world, and devote your whole life to them. And that's disturbing if we really listen to that. So who is Jesus? We're talking about him, and a lot has happened in his life when we get to the story today. A lot has happened by the time that he leaves Nazareth, goes about to do his first bit of ministry, and he's attracted a lot of people. A lot of people are attracted by him and about what he's saying. He's amassed a huge following, probably in the hundreds, in a very early, quick time. And then he chooses 12 of those people who came to follow him as his close friends and disciples to train up and to take over when he's gone. So a lot's happened since we've met him last, and new characters are coming onto the scene like Peter and Mary Magdalene and many others. And we're interested, just as they are, who is this Jesus? They didn't know. They were amazed by him, but there was this big puzzle about this guy. They couldn't quite pin him down. We don't quite understand it, but we know that being with him makes the most sense of our life that it ever has. And so they begin to follow him. I like one of the authors says it like this: Jesus is a man in the eye of the storm of history and culture, of politics and piety, a man who seemed to be asleep in the middle of it all, but then who stood up and told the wind and the waves to stop. And we ask ourselves, what kind of storm historically was Jesus in? He was in a lot of literal storms in his life, but what was the metaphorical political storm? And we're going to talk about that a little today, because for him to come and announce his kingship the way he did would be a little like this. Guys, I've got some news for you, and it's big news. something that's going to change my life and change everything about what I'm doing. And it's going to affect you deeply too. And here's what it is. As of today, as of right now, I am announcing that I am now Prime Minister of Canada. There are no elections. There was no elections, none of that. I've just now become Prime Minister. And I want you all to follow me like that. I want you to, all your tax money, stop paying it to Thunder Bay, stop paying it to Ontario, stop paying it to Canada. All of it comes to me. And we're going to go around, all of us, I'm going to send you out. This group of people, you're going to Winnipeg. This group of people, you're going to go down to Southern Ontario. And this group of people, you're going down to Minneapolis. And you're going to tell them that not only am I Prime Minister of Canada, but I am King of the world. Okay, that's what Jesus was doing. In a world where there was already a king, and there was already an emperor, and a great world power. That's what his message was, okay? And so this is how big this is, and how some people must have thought he was loony, right? I mean, if someone came and did that today, and they were serious, we'd say, step next door, please. Go to the police station. So all that to say, Jesus is stepping into a storm. If I were to really do that, and we were to really believe that and go about that, we would be stepping into a massive political storm. I mean, do you think the city council here would have something to say about it, let alone if this thing picked up steam? And imagine if I started gathering like hundreds of followers, thousands of followers. I mean, this is what Jesus is doing. This is what he's going around to announce. I am king, Caesar is not. So, here we are. I just wanted to give us a little bit of a map here of his early ministry, because this is where we're going to dwell for the next many weeks. Here's Galilee, Lower Galilee and Upper Galilee. North kind of runs like this. This is a bit of an angle. North is this way. So here's Nazareth, where he grew up. And if you look closely, there's a large plain here, and it comes up to a mountainous region. And right about here is where his townspeople tried to throw him off the cliff to kill him. Sepphoris was kind of the capital of Galilee. Cana, you might remember where he went and turned water to wine early in his life. Mount Tabor here is the likely place, the traditional place for the transfiguration. You know, you could, and this is, I mean, it's not a huge area. If you have been here, you could see Mount Tabor really clearly from Nazareth. You could almost see the Sea of Galilee from Nazareth. Here's Tiberias, which will come into play today. Here's Magdala, where, you know, Mary Magdalene, she was from here. Here's Gennesaret. And here's Capernaum, where Jesus, we're told once he grows up and leaves home, this is where he sets up his home base and meets Peter. And that'll be good to get to know here. Now here's the Sea of Galilee, this sea here. And it could be because, you know, it's quite big, and it can pick up some steam if there's a storm. But Jesus, in his early ministry, is just walking around this sea here, picking up followers, doing miracles in Capernaum and in Cana. And the word is spreading, and his followers are spreading. So here we are in Galilee. Jesus has done his Nazareth manifesto. He's announced himself as king of the world. He's teaching things. He's teaching his followers profound things that they say, they testify to. It's almost as if he finally has authority. Someone is finally speaking to our hearts, and it's making sense of our life. All of his teachings, you might have heard of the Sermon on the Mount. He gives this great sermon right up here on a little hillside, and there's a church there today where that honors that. And not only is he giving profound teachings, but he's going around healing people. I mean, people who have been blind from birth can see. People who have leprosy and have been cast out are no longer sick. People who had demons. You know, this is people who had demons possessing them, and they were out of their mind. Jesus coming in and calming their mind, casting out the demons, and the demons screaming, "We know who you are, Son of God," and Jesus is like, "Zip it." You know, no one's supposed to know that yet. And so this is what he's doing. This is the context in which we find ourselves. And so we find ourselves in Matthew 8, in Capernaum, in Peter's house, or Peter's mother-in-law's house. And that evening Jesus healed Peter's mother-in-law. And that evening they brought to him many who were possessed with demons. And he cast out the spirits with a word, just a word, out. And they went out and cured all who were sick. This was to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took our infirmities and bore our diseases. In Matthew, Matthew who's writing this gospel, who's saying, from many decades later, looking back, saying, now that we understand who Jesus is, we know that all of those healings and all of those exorcisms were about something more than him just having some certain power. It was about a prophecy from old. There's a prophecy from old. Someone will come and will take our infirmities upon him, and we will be healed. And so this is what's happening when we get to this storm. He is in Capernaum. He gives this teaching, and people are saying to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." I mean, there are people that are so devoted to Jesus at this point that they're saying, say anything, do anything, ask me to do anything. I'll do it. I'm your devoted follower. I will go to the ends of the earth for you, Jesus. And what's interesting is when people say that to Jesus, his usual response is something like, I don't really believe that. Something like that. I will go to the cross with you, says Peter. And Jesus says, actually, you won't. So, Jesus, I don't know, this disturbs us. You think Jesus is a nice guy. He's not going to ruffle any feathers. If we give our devotion life to him, he's just going to be so happy about it. And he is. But there's something else that comes with it. He's not just interested in us giving our lives to him. He's interested in freeing us and making us whole and drawing us deeper into fellowship with him. And so he'll say things like, people say, "Teacher, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth." And he'll say, "Foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man doesn't have a place to lay his head," which is to say, I'm choosing to give up all of my prosperity, all of my comfort, all of my personal preferences in order to show you what it's like to live a life of complete abandon to God. And you should too. Give up all of your possessions, says Jesus. And people can't do that. And one guy says, "Okay, I'm going to follow you, Jesus, but my dad just died. Let me go bury him. Let me go to the funeral." And when you know what Jesus says, here's what I would say. Okay, go ahead. We'll wait. Go and grieve your loss. But Jesus says, let the dead bury their own dead. I mean, this is disturbing stuff. Why would you say that, Jesus? It's like throwing sand in our faces. But this is what we get. This is the story. This is what he's about. And there's some deeper mystery here going on. He's doing something that's far bigger than any of these people could have ever imagined. And so after all this happens, he got into a boat, and his disciples followed him. I don't know, this is a good picture of, this is the Sea of Galilee here, and the type of boat that we had Jesus plus 12 in as they went out, and he's going to go across the place to a wilderness area, and he's going to find a man who's really possessed with lots of demons, and he's going to go cast them out. And so on their way, Jesus falls asleep. A windstorm arose on the sea, so great that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was taking a nap. Can you see this? It's kind of dark. It's this really interesting piece of art that Jesus is here sleeping. His disciples are about to be capsized, and they're trying to wake him up. They know his power, but here he is asleep. And I ask ourselves, what's going on with this sleeping man here? Like, what could possibly have tired him out so much? What could possibly be going through his mind for him to be sleeping in this great storm while everyone else was asleep? And I think that part of it, he's probably fatigued. Jesus is already just fatigued at all that he's already done. He's been rejected by his people. He's gone out, and he's tired. But I think he's also, he knows what kind of storm he's in. This is a storm, a raging storm, but he knows the bigger storm. He knows the political storm. He knows the implications about what is going to happen to him if he goes out preaching himself as king. And here's the storm. I told you that the city called Tiberias on the shores of the Lake of Galilee. Tiberias was built in Jesus' lifetime. It was a new city built on top of a little village, and it was built by Herod Antipas. Herod Antipas was the son of Herod the Great, and Herod Antipas was also the one who beheads his cousin John, and who ends up playing a crucial role in Jesus' own sentence and crucifixion. So Herod Antipas was living in a castle or whatever, or a big mansion by the side of the Lake of Galilee, and he built up Tiberias to sort of, this is my area, this is my land, I've been giving it, I'm the ruler here, and Jesus will come up against him. So Jesus knows about Herod Antipas, and Herod Antipas names Tiberias after the great Caesar Tiberius, the great king who's on the throne in Rome. And so here you have a Jewish king who has giving his homage to the Roman king, and Jesus coming into this storm. He knows what's going to happen. He knows that it's going to get serious. And I think he's just exhausted by that. You know, here's a picture of Tiberius, an old picture when color pictures were just getting taken, I don't know, way back in the 100 years ago maybe, of the old city of Tiberias. And so when Jesus is going around on the other side of this lake, he's looking across and he's teaching his let's imagine this is where he gives a Sermon on the Mount up here. He's looking across. For anywhere you are in this great lake, you can see Tiberias. You can see, it's not like he was just out in a bunch of villages. Like the rulers of the place were making themselves visible. And so he's not just thinking about Herod Antipas here and Herod's land. He's thinking about Rome. Here's Rome in the ancient world. I mean, talk about a city. Ancient Rome was massive. It was glorious. It was filled with all sorts of architecture and civilization, so to speak. And it was Rome who had the great power grip over the place Jesus lived. Jesus lived in a very crucial place because Rome needed Israel. It was an important trade route to get to all the grain down in the area. They needed Israel for this. So Israel was crucial. They weren't going to ever let Israel go. Israel was part of their vice grip, and Jesus knows this. Jesus knows that he's walking into this great storm of power and politics. And here we have Augustus. Tiberius is, I forget exactly, his stepfather. I forget exactly how it is. But Augustus, the son of Julius Caesar. You remember Julius Caesar, who takes the Roman Republic and makes it an empire. And he goes about proclaiming himself not only the ruler of the known world, but also a son of a god. He was divine. Something was divine about him. And you get this divus filius here. That's the Roman for the son of God. Augustus, the son of God. So if Augustus was the son of God, and Tiberius was the next in line, Tiberius is also a son of God. And these emperors begin thinking of themselves as divine in some way. And they go around, and people are going around to announce, worship and follow Augustus and Tiberius. But Jesus comes into the midst of it, right? And he says, they're not king, I'm king. They're not a son of God, I am the true Son of God. Jesus knows how charged this environment is, and he's sleeping through this storm. And you kind of wonder, Jesus, what's going through your head? And it must have been something about all of the implications, how risky it was going to be to keep doing what he was called to do. But then you ask yourselves, what's going through these guys' mind, right? What's happening in their mind as they're on the boat? And what I think they're thinking of is Jesus is pronouncing himself as king, which means this. Way back, all the way from our ancestors. I mean, these are Jewish men. Ancestors Abraham and Moses and David and all the great kings that have come before us. They're going, Jesus is the fulfillment of this great dream that someday we'll finally be free from the Roman oppression. And they're asking themselves, why in the world would this guy be sleeping if he's the next king? We're just going to die in this storm. And then what happens next just rattles them to their core. They woke him up saying, "Lord, save us. We are perishing." Lord, they call him. "Lord, save us. We are perishing." And then it's almost as if they're remembering the great psalm, Psalm 44. These guys would have sung these psalms and memorized these psalms and loved these psalms. And here's what Psalm 44 says. "We have heard with our ears, O God. Our ancestors have told us what deeds you performed in their days, in the days of old. Wake yourself up. Why do you sleep, O Lord? Awake, do not cast us off forever. Why do you hide your face? Why do you forget our affliction and oppression? For we sink down to the dust. Our bodies cling to the ground. Rise up, come to our help. Redeem us for the sake of your steadfast love." And this ancient Jewish prayer was probably filling their hearts. Wake up, Jesus. We're about to save us. And it's much deeper than just save us from this boat. It's save us from all of our afflictions. And I'm so convinced as we look deeply back into this story that we can resonate so well with what they must have been feeling. I mean, how many of us feel like God's asleep in our life? How many of us have situations or things that we're struggling with, or people that we're struggling with, or work situations, or a dream that we've had that's not quite coming true, that we've always wanted to come true, it's just not there? How many of us feel like God is asleep at the wheel? This is what's happening here. And this is the great prayer of the Psalms. Wake up, God. Hear us, hear our prayers. And this is echoed throughout this event. And Jesus said to them, he wakes up and says, "What are you guys afraid of? Oh, you of little faith." That was his response to them. "What are you afraid of, you of little faith?" Then he got up and rebuked the wind and the sea, and there was a dead calm. They were amazed, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him?" Now, I think this is where these moments in Jesus' life, I start to slip a little bit. And what I mean by that is to say, I can understand a Jesus who gets up and speaks some bold truth to the powers that be. But I no longer can relate to a guy who can stand up and go, whew, and a storm gets subsided. And you know what? They couldn't relate either. What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? And I'm just challenging us to say, what we're doing this year is to try to take a year to understand Jesus. Who is he? What is he about? Why is he our Lord? Let's be a little bit put at peace to recognize that they were just as puzzled as we sometimes are. We come to Jesus and we expect him to give us a warm hug and make us feel safe. But he says, "I'm going to take you places and fulfill your dreams in ways that you can't even imagine, ways that not just heal you, but heal the people who've hurt you." And we ask ourselves sometimes when he does that to us, when we're asking, "God, why are you asleep?" and then just wakes up sometimes and says, "You little faith." Sometimes that disturbs us. But this is what this is about. This is about our lives being built up and reframed in something way bigger than we could ever make them. What kind of man is this? So it's okay as we go forward to be a bit puzzled by Jesus. They were too. And we ask ourselves, what kind of man is this? But you know what? These were great Jewish people, so the scriptures were resonating in their ears, and they must have thought about this as they see him stand up and calm these waves, as they pray like a psalmist prayed to the living God, and they asked him to get up and save them, as they see the sea immediately go calm and the winds and waves die down. They must have been thinking about Job. Job 38, remember the story of Job, a man whose life was ruined by Satan. His children were taken away, his bodily health was taken away. And he gets to a place where he's pointing his finger at God, saying, "God, why would you do this to me? I feel like I'm just target practice." And God shows up. And remember, when God shows up out of the whirlwind. And he answers Job, "Who shut in the sea with doors, God eventually says. When it burst out from the womb, when I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed bounds for it, and set bars and doors, and said, this far you shall come, and no farther. And here shall your proud waves be stopped. They know the one person in all of the universe that can stop waves. These Jews knew. And so when Jesus does this, I believe when he comes and calms the storm and stops the sea from its rollers, I believe that they begin, something sparks in them. And they began going, this is different than we expected. Something new is happening here. Who is this man? We know who does this. I think it takes them a while to work it out and work it all out. It doesn't come to them immediately. But the experiences like this shake them to the foundation of their worldview. And they realize that Jesus, even though we can relate with him, and even though his followers said, to be with Jesus, yeah, it was scary a lot of times, and it bothered us a lot of times, but you know what? It was the type of being bothered that made us feel like our lives finally made sense. Everything else was just confusion and chaos. But to be with him is worth more than gold, they said. And so, we ourselves come to this man, asking questions like, what powers in our life, Roman, Greek, political, relational, what kind of powers in our life tend to want to control us? How have they affected you? How might your life be different if you let Jesus come in and take charge of your life? If he can do that to a storm, and if he can stand up to the Roman authorities, he can take your life, anything that's trying to control you, and stand up against it for your freedom. There's nothing too big and powerful for him to come and be your Lord and to protect you. We ask ourselves, where do we need courage? Where do we need someone with deep courage to come into our life and make us whole? What is that for you? Where do you need courage? Where do you need someone that can come in and help you be courageous as him? We all need courage in this life. And what is it that we need faith for? We all come to the end of our limitations, our abilities. Sometimes we need confidence that someone bigger than us can take our life and make sense of it, to calm our storms, to take our life in the storms and to say, be at peace. This is the message for Jesus for us today as we come to continue to get to know him. And perhaps, I don't know, I just thought we'd maybe end with this psalm together. We have this table set before us. We have this bread and this juice, and Jesus tells us to come and to dip the bread into the juice and to remember him. Because we can so easily forget, can't we? We can go about the storms of our life thinking the water is going to capsize us. We're going to drown. It's too big. It's too massive. And we can forget that there's someone far more powerful than we can ever imagine, ready to take our life and to calm our storms. What is that for you? We come to the table with that question. And perhaps, maybe this is your prayer today. And maybe we'll just, before I invite us to the table, we'll just pray this together out loud. I'm not sure what the prayer of your heart is today, but if it's anything like, God, why are you asleep in my life? This is a prayer for you. So let's pray it. We have heard with our ears, O God. Our ancestors have told us what deeds you performed in their days, in the days of old. Wake yourself up. Why do you sleep, O Lord? Awake, do not cast us off forever. Why do you hide your face? Why do you forget our affliction and oppression? For we sink down to the dust. Our bodies cling to the ground. Rise up, come to our help. Redeem us for the sake of your steadfast love. Whatever prayer is in your heart today, I would invite you forward to come to the table, to bring it to the maker of the universe. And the table is set, and everyone here is welcome.